Good morning, Facebook, YouTube, Daily Motion, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for Sunday, February 15th, 2015, around 9:17 in the morning in Billerica, Massachusetts. The snow is winding down in the Merrimack Valley area of Billerica, but several inches of snow fell, close to a foot. It's blowing and drifting right now. Nobody should be on the roads right now because it's a dangerous storm. The windshields are very dangerous. Some places got close to 2 feet in the coast in Massachusetts. Some news to report tonight is the NBA All-Star Game. It's going to be on TNT and ESPN Radio, and it's the mid-season showcase for the NBA. And that's about it on the news. My next subject is the continuation top 10 list of everything and anything. I've reached the top 10 greatest NHL captains of all time. The captain position in the NHL is very important. It means that player who's designated the captain is the leader of the team, the heart and soul of the team, and a locker room leader. And here are the top 10 greatest NHL captains of all time. Number 10 on this list is current Pittsburgh Penguins captain Sidney Crosby. Sidney's a great captain. He led the Penguins to the 2009 Stanley Cup. Two-time most valuable player in the NHL. He scored a lot of points. He's probably the best player in the NHL right now. He comes in at number 10. Number 9 on this list of the greatest NHL captains of all time, Ray Bourque, who was the defenseman for the Bruins. He was captain of the Bruins from 1985 to 2000. He won 5 Norris trophies while captain with the Bruins. He never won a Stanley Cup as captain of the Bruins. He won it the last season with the Avalanche, but Ray Bourque was the heart and soul of the Bruins for many years. Probably the best defenseman in Bruins history next to Bobby Orr. Number 77 is retired in the rafters at TD Garden. Ray Bourque comes in at number 9. Number 8 on the all-time list of the greatest NHL captains of all time, defenseman Dennis Potvin. Dennis Potvin was the captain of the New York Islanders when they won 4 straight Stanley Cups in the 1980s. Also, Dennis Potvin was a very great NHL defenseman. Probably one of the best of all time. He won several Norris trophies. He was the first NHL defenseman to score 300 goals. Number 5 retired by the New York Islanders, and he was a first ballot Hockey Hall of Famer in 1991. Number 7 on the all-time list of greatest NHL captains of all time, Super Mario Lemieux, Pittsburgh Penguins. He was the captain of the Penguins for many years. He won 3 MVP awards for the National Hockey League. He led the NHL in goal scoring many times. He led the Pittsburgh Penguins to 2 Stanley Cups, 1991, 1992. He eventually became owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he returned to play after a couple of years retired, and number 66 is retired by the Penguins. He comes in at number 7. Number 6 on the all-time list of greatest NHL captains of all time, Joe Sakic. Joe Sakic was a long-time captain of the Quebec Nordiques and Colorado Avalanche, probably one of the best player in Nordiques and Avalanche history. He led the Avalanche to 2 Stanley Cups in 1996 and 2001. That was the same year he won the Hart Trophy as National Hockey League's most valuable player. Probably the greatest, player ever in Avalanche history. He was in his numbers 19th, retired by the Avalanche, and he's a Hockey Hall of Famer. Number 5 on the all-time list of the greatest NHL captains in history of all time, Scott Stevens, defenseman. Scott was the captain of the New Jersey Devils for many years. He wore number 4, was a very great defenseman. He led the Devils to 3 Stanley Cup championships, 1995, 2000, 2003. He was probably known for being a team leader and stuff. He was kind of a defensive defenseman, great leader and stuff. His career ended in 2004 with a concussion. He was a first ballot Hockey Hall of Fame in 2007. Number 4 is retired by the New Jersey Devils, and he comes in at number 5. Number 4 on the all-time list of greatest NHL captains of all time, the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky holds the record for most goals, points, assists in NHL history. He was the captain of the Oilers, and 4 times he led them to the Stanley Cup Championship, 1984, 1985, 1987, 1988. He eventually was, when he got traded to the LA Kings, he became captain of the team for the Kings in 1989 through 1996, and he got traded to the Blues, and he was named captain of the Blues. And he's one of the best captains of all time. The great one, number 99, retired league-wide. Comes in at number 4. Number 3 on the all-time list of the greatest NHL captains of all time, John Barrow. John was a long-time captain of the Montreal Canadiens in the 60s. He led the Canadiens to several Stanley Cup championships in the 60s. One of the classiest players in NHL history. He passed away last year. He retired in 1971, and his number 4 is retired by the Canadiens. Very great player, one of the best ambassadors to the NHL of all time. Number 2 on the all-time list of greatest NHL captains of all time, Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman was named captain of the Detroit Red Wings in 1986 at the age of 21. He was captain of the Red Wings for 20 years, which is pretty amazing. He led the Red Wings to 3 Stanley Cups, 1997, 1980, 1998, and 2002. Is probably the best Detroit Red Wings player of all time, next to Gordie Howe. His number 19 is retired by the Red Wings, and now he's the president of general manager of hockey operations of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And his goal is to win a Stanley Cup as an executive for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think he might do it. But the number 1 greatest captain in NHL history is Mark Messier. Mark Messier is the only man to captain 2 teams to the Stanley Cup. He was captain of the Edmonton Oilers in 1990 when they beat the Boston Bruins for Stanley Cup, which was a big upset because the Bruins had the best record in the National Hockey League that year. But the Oilers had a hot goaltender in Bill Ranford, which was one-time played for the Boston Bruins. And as what Bob Lobel would say, longtime sportscaster in Boston, why can't we get players like that? And then Mark Messier was traded to the New York Rangers in 1991, immediately became captain of the Rangers, and he won Hart Trophy twice, 1990 and 1992, 1994. Mark led the New York Rangers to the Stanley Cup Championship, breaking a 54-year-old curse, and the Rangers were down to their arch rivals, the New Jersey Devils, 3-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals in 1994, and Mark Messier guaranteed they would win Game 6, and he lived up to that promise because he scored a hat trick, and the Devils were done at Game 7, and then the crowning achievement for Mark Messier when he finally hoisted the Stanley Cup for the New York Rangers in 1994, ending that 54-year-old curse. He also was the captain of the Vancouver Canucks for a few years, but the Vancouver Canucks at the time Mark was playing were in a major rebuilding mode. Mark returned to the Rangers in 2000, became captain again. He retired after the 2004 season. He played 25 years in the National Hockey League, has the second most points in NHL history next to Wayne Gretzky. Number 11 retired by the Rangers and the Oilers. He became a first ballot Hockey Hall of Famer in 2007. And that's about it on the best NHL captains of all time. Be back later. Facebook friends and YouTube followers, Twitter and Daily Motion. 2 more video blogs to go today. One will be about some changes that might happen in the National Basketball Association next year. This is through like Adam Silver's State of the NBA address that he did last night at the All-Star game, and the third and final video blog tonight will be about the Minuteman bike path that goes from our life T station to Bedford, Massachusetts. And see you later. Survive the snow in New England.